Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Thank you for braving the traffic to come out to the Norris Center. We appreciate it. And welcome to the State of Small Business in Austin panel and breakfast. I appreciate you being here, and I think you are really going to enjoy today's panel. We have a group of experts who are really going to break it down for you guys, and I really appreciate all of them being here. We are here to celebrate and the strength of all of our small business owners and entrepreneurs here in Austin for their strength and their tenacity and what they do for the city of Austin and all the neighborhoods throughout this city. I'm Jackie Mayo. I'm with the Small Business Division and within the Austin Economic Development Department. Before we begin this morning, I want to say thank you to Assistant City Manager T.C. Broadnex, Assistant City Manager Dr. Johnson, Eric Johnson, Mayor Watson, and our City Council members for their continued support and small businesses and our community, as well as to our department. I also want to thank our community partners, all of our chambers of commerce, our state and federal partners, and of course, our sister city departments who we work so well with to bring you all the services for our small businesses. Thank you very much for all the hard work that you do. And naturally, and of course, I want to thank the Small Business Division, my coworkers and teammates for putting this event together year after year after year. Let's give them a good hand. This week is especially meaningful. We're celebrating Austin Small Business Week in conjunction with the Small Business Administration's National Small Business Week, which they have been recognizing since the 1960s nationwide. That's a lot of years. Each year, this week allows us to recognize the businesses that fuel our local economy, businesses that create jobs, spark innovation, and shape the character of our neighborhoods. We're celebrating your contributions, and we're reaffirming our commitment to supporting the people who take risks, pursue new ideas, and help Austin's vibrant and inclusive city. This year also marks a very important point for our department. Along with Assistant City Manager Dr. Johnson, we are working together to develop a new economic development roadmap. It's a strategic plan designed to strengthen our businesses' ecosystem, expand opportunity, and ensure that our local economy works for everyone. This roadmap will help us better align resources, modernize tools and services, and identify long-term strategies that support small businesses at every stage of their journey. Its benefits reach far beyond what we want and far beyond policy. It will help us build a clearer, more coordinated, and a more equitable path for growth across our city. Today's conversation, which I'm so excited about, is an essential part of that roadmap. As we explore the state of small business here in Austin, both the challenges and the opportunities, we do this with the intention of listening, learning, and bringing those insights directly into the roadmap we are creating. So to our panelists, thank you very much for being here this morning. I appreciate your expertise, your experience, and most of all, your perspectives. And with that, I would like to invite Joy Miller to the stage.
Thank you, Jackie. Can you hear? Yeah. I'm happy to introduce Dr. Eric Johnson, Assistant City Manager for Austin. He's a respected leader in urban and economic development, helping to shape cities across the country, including Austin. Dr. Johnson has more than 20 years of experience in business, government, real estate, housing, planning, and public policy. As president and CEO of Aon in Minneapolis, he led the organization through post-pandemic challenges and managed almost 6,000 affordable housing units. He also brings deep Texas roots to his work. As Chief of Economic and Neighborhood Revitalization for the city of Dallas, Dr. Johnson led housing, planning, permitting, historic preservation, and economic development initiatives. Under his leadership, the city adopted a new economic development policy, created a $100 million affordable housing fund, launched a comprehensive planning effort, and laid the foundation for a new economic development corporation, all while modernizing key permitting systems. Across the Northeast, Midwest, South, and Southeast, Dr. Johnson has guided transformative community and economic development efforts. He has managed multi-million-dollar programs, secured critical resources, and advanced strategies that align community priorities with sustainable business growth. Dr. Johnson holds degrees from Washburn University, the University of Tennessee. Okay, you happen to have one of them in the room with him, and the University of Delaware, and is an alum of Harvard's Advanced Management Development Program in real estate, and he is a certified economic development financial professional. Please welcome me in joining Dr. Johnson, our Assistant City Manager.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to provide some talking points this morning. So, good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be here as we reflect on the state of small business in Austin, an event that highlights not only our economic progress, but the strength and resilience of entrepreneurs who power the city. Over the past year, we've continued to advance the Economic Development Roadmap, which is really a 36-month guide for the city as we look at pieces we need to focus on and the building blocks we may be missing that we need to emphasize to grow the city's economic path going forward. As we think about it, it's really about helping us get to scale with a significant emphasis on small business. This week holds special significance because Austin Small Business Week aligns with Small Business Administration's National Small Business Week. It's a reminder that our local entrepreneurs are part of the national movement, one that celebrates innovation, job creation, and the vital role businesses play in creating vibrant communities. Here in Austin, we are committed to elevating that work, removing barriers, and creating systems that help our local businesses thrive every single day. Small businesses are the backbone of Austin's economy, culture. They create jobs, activate our neighborhoods, and define the character that makes our city unique. But right now, many small businesses are facing real challenges: rising commercial rents, property taxes, increased construction and build-out costs, workforce shortages, limited access to flexible, affordable capital. The city recognizes these pressures and is actively working to support entrepreneurs at every stage, from startup to expansion. One exciting step, we just launched our Kiva program. This program provides 0% interest crowdfunding loans to support small business owners. It's especially impactful for entrepreneurs who may not qualify for traditional financing. It also helps businesses build credit and community support. This is part of a larger strategy to make Austin more small business friendly. There was a resolution or IFC created by the council several months ago where we're going to really look at those barriers and work to remove those over the course of the period as we work through the roadmap. Improving access to capital. Exploring a new business plan competition to help entrepreneurs launch. And we will launch a business plan competition. We're going to make it at the forefront where we get really good ideas, not necessarily from the tech side, but the smaller business side that's trying to grow in Austin. Developing a revolving loan program to support ongoing financing options. That is also something that's imperative in terms of part of our roadmap as we go forward. Reducing barriers to opening and growing businesses. Taking a look at the permitting process to make them faster, clearer, and more predictable for small businesses. working to lower development and build-out costs where possible, addressing commercial affordability, exploring policies and partnerships to ensure small businesses can find and keep affordable spaces, supporting vibrant, diverse commercial corridors across the city. We want to look at ways to make it more simplistic for the small business community. We can do the corporate stuff all day, but we want to make sure the small business aspect of Austin is solid as we go forward. The goal is simple: make it easier, faster, and more affordable to start and run a small business in Austin, because when businesses succeed, Austin succeeds. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Today's conversation brings together leaders who understand the opportunities and challenges facing Austin's small business community. And to help guide that conversation, we're fortunate to have a moderator whose career has been dedicated to expanding access and opening doors for diverse entrepreneurs. Hopeton Hay serves as the executive director of the historically underutilized business program for the University of Texas System, a role he has held since 2005. With more than 30 years of experience, he has been a champion for small, minority, and women-owned businesses, helping them to secure access to capital, bonding, and contracting opportunities. His leadership reaches well beyond the UT system. He has served on the boards of the Greater Austin Black Chamber of Commerce, the Austin Syntex chapter of the National Association of Black Accountants, and the Texas Mezzanine Fund. His work has strengthened procurement pathways across Texas and helped countless businesses participate more fully in our region's economic growth. It's my pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, Hopeton Hay.
What an honor indeed it is to continue to work with this small business division of the City of Austin. I've actually worked with them in some shape, form, or fashion. It might be somewhere while 25 or 30 years. And I will tell you that in all my years, I've been in this space since 1988. I started when I was in elementary school. And from my work with the U.S. Small Business Administration, the Houston District Office, and the San Antonio District Office, and my work with the Small Business Division of the City of Austin, they are vital resources to the success of entrepreneurs out here and aspiring entrepreneurs. So it's really an honor to be asked to moderate this session, but we're going to start off with economics. I am honored to welcome Dr. Luis Torres, Senior Business Economist at the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas and San Antonio, where he has contributed research and analysis on economic issues affecting Texas, Mexico, and the U.S.-Mexico border since joining the bank in 2022. He earned his bachelor's degree in economics from Monterrey Institute of Technology in Mexico, followed by a master's degree in economics from the University of Texas, El Paso, where his dissertation received honors. He later participated in the American Economic Association's PhD Summer Minority Program and completed his doctorate at the University of Colorado at Boulder with a focus on international economics and econometrics. Transitioning from the economic landscape of Texas and the border region to the small business communities, the next leader brings deep experience in federal service and entrepreneurship support. Please welcome Dr. Torres.
That you want from the
There we go. So I did promise Dr. Torres or Luis that we wouldn't talk about John Maynard Keynes versus Milton Friedman. So I posted it to that. But what we are going to talk about really is wanting small business owners to really understand how the data that's provided by the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas can really be helpful for your business. And so as I was going to the website, I was looking at the kind of data that they're providing, and I had some questions about it. And initially, I was going to start off talking about the Austin Economic Indicators, which were just released on April 23rd. And it covers the Austin Business Cycle Index, unemployment rates, employment average, hourly wages, home prices, and home inventories. But when Dr. Torres and I were talking in a phone conversation, he really said, don't forget the Texas Business Outlook Survey. So, Luis, why don't we start off with you talking about what is the Texas Business Outlook Survey and how it can help small businesses?
First of all, thank you, Tim, for the great introduction. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. First of all, before we start talking about that, just to know that acknowledge what small businesses are for the economy, right? For the U.S. economy, for the Texas economy, the Austin economy. You're the border of the economy, right? Every big business that we know, right, started as small business, right? It didn't start humongous, right? They started small business, they grew, they developed, they evolved, and now our major industries, right? The same as small business here. So first of all, it's really important what's the contribution of small business to the economy. And going back to our surveys, I think that's, for us, one of our big, besides the other things we do here in the district, the 11th district, one major contribution is our surveys. Why are they so important? What do we get from the service? And what information is useful for all the people here, right? Or for small, medium, large business in Texas, or policymakers in state Texas. So they're really tiny, useful information. Why do I, and reliables? Why do I say that? Because we go out and directly ask Texas companies, small companies, medium companies, large companies, services, manufacturing companies, retail, what's happening. We ask them about their employment, their jobs, wages, their selling prices, output, revenue. And it gives a really clear picture of what's currently happening in the economy. So just think about what happened during the shutdown we had last year. There was no official data. So imagine, there was no data. There was no employment data. There was no GDP data. There was no industrial production. There was no data. So a really good, reliable source that we use at the Fed and other policymakers was what? The surveys. And they've proven through the years to be really reliable, especially the surveys to know what's happening with employment and business activity. I didn't bring a graph today as an economist, but if I could show you just one slide or one graph, I would show you the responses we get from our surveys, especially employment-wise, and I could put it against the actual employment numbers we get. You get the Texas Workers Commission or the BLS, the Bureau of Statistics. They were tracking. Those surveys track employment. If it's even better, why? Because we get the surveys first, then we get the actual employment numbers. And also, don't forget the issue we have with the data, with the official data, that it gets revised, right? And our surveys do not get revised. So that's why I'm saying they're reliable, useful. Let me give you another example. Every month, we try to look into questions or issues that are facing us, the economy, and businesses. Example, in the latest survey, April survey, what did you think we had? What do you think were our special questions, Hopeton? What do you think were our special questions in the month of April?
Price of beds?
Correct. The Iran, U.S. Iraq conflict. And we asked Texas businesses, have you been impacted by the Iran-U.S. conflict? 47 responded yes. And what were the effects they were worried about? Of course, you mentioned earlier, transportation costs, gasoline. The second one was uncertainty, and the other one's the effect under demand for the products. So this is really good. I would recommend all of you, if you want to have a good, reliable snapshot of what's happening in the economy, I would recommend go to our webpage
and look at the surveys and also look at the special questions because that gives you a really good detail. Of course, a year ago, Liberation Day, the next bud, what do you think we asked? The impact on what, everybody? The tariffs. And then it was cool. We followed that question to Tom. And what did we notice? That right away, six companies that were affected by the tariffs, you can see their selling prices were going up at the higher rate than the companies that weren't affected by tariffs. Another policy issue, immigration policy, it was mentioned earlier also. The effect on labor supply, right? We asked Texas companies, do you hire foreign workers, immigrant workers? The ones that said yes. What we found currently through Tide, we still monitor them, that their employment numbers have fallen. And that's been affecting the labor supply and incumbents. So it's really interesting what we do there, right? So I would recommend that. And the other thing, if you want to help us out, we're always looking for more companies to join us. Right. What is it, Barry? And also the confidence. They're 100%. Yes. There's no confidential.
So let's sort of unpack this, and I think maybe I didn't start off with what I really want the audience to understand. We have regional Federal Reserve banks all across, so we're used to seeing the big pronouncements, and there's a press conference, and are they raising interest rate or lower the interest rates? Would specifically talk about the role of Federal Reserve regional banks like the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, and I think the website to get the data is FRB Dallas.org. Is that correct?
www.dallasfed.org.
DallasFed.org. DallasFed.org.
Dallas BRB.
Yeah. So there's incredible information on that website. Absolutely incredible. But what is the role of a Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, and what is the territory they specifically serve?
So in our case, it's the 11th district, of course, of the whole state of Texas. We have part of Louisiana and part of New Mexico, the west side. But normally, since it's Texas, there's more Texas. We focus more on the data related to Texas, right? But what's interesting, what's really cool about the 12 districts we have here at the Federal Reserve is that each district is focused on the local communities and the district they serve, right? And we want to get the information on what's happening locally in the economy. Yes, look at the macroeconomic trends, but I think there's our strengths, especially in Dallas Fed. We have a really strong regional group where we try to identify what's happening and what's affecting the local community, the local economy. So that's why the part of the surveys hope to mention also the indicators. We produce indicators for the Austin economy, for the Houston economy, for the Rio Grande Valley economy, El Paso. Why? Because we want to try to understand what's happening locally in the economy. As you know, you start from the local economy, you can aggregate, right? It gives you a picture of this regional or the district, and then you can get another idea also how it's going to affect the macro economy, right? So it's really important to understand what's happening. And also these types of events. We also have other events like for us, community outreach that our research alley that my colleague Judy O'Malley does, that goes out and talks to communities. We also have other events where we invite people from our community to talk about in panels, talk about what's happening in the economy, because we need to understand what's happening. Why? Because that's the best way to formulate monetary policy.
In the audience, I would like to ask, how many of you have customers that are outside of Austin? Raise your hand. How many of you have customers that are outside of Texas? Raise your hand. So in other words, whether you're selling to customers in Austin or Dallas or Oklahoma, you can go to the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas and find market-specific information that can help them, right?
Yeah, especially here in Texas. Of course, other Fed districts have their surveys. Richmond has a survey. Philadelphia has their survey. The Empire State, New York, their survey, right? All regional banks have their own type of they try to gather information. Cleveland has it, others. Some have go even more like in community development, housing affordability. We haven't done that. but other ones have specific regional local data that's important, especially what's happening, to understand what's happening in the local communities, no?
So there's something called the Austin Business Cycle Index, and I looked at that Austin Business Cycle Index, and what I noticed, and correct me if my memory is it's not accurate, is based on the Business Cycle Index. Is Austin the strongest city in Texas based on the Business Cycle Index?
So if you look at the overall economy historically for the past 10 years, so let me give you just some, I'm an economist, I have to give you some numbers, right, for everybody? So Texas economy, employment growth in the Texas economy. The Texas economy historically on average employment has grown 2%. So the Texas economy, jobs grow 2% per year, right? Let's talk about Austin. You think Austin's employment growth is higher or lower than Texas? Higher. So actually, employment growth historically and on average in the Austin economy grows by 3%. So that shows you the strength of the Austin economy, and is growing at a higher rate than even the overall average of the Texas economy employment. So 3%. So yes, so Austin, yes, I'm preaching to the choir, right? If you're here in Austin, you've seen the growth of the economy, the strength, the movement of companies, the movement of people out of state, in state, to the Austin economy, right? Of course, was one of the major drivers. Everybody knows that we're talking about earlier, right, Roland? It's high tech, right? Innovation. All this is one of them. It's also helped out the Texas economy. Think about their economy. When they're hopped on, we're talking about the A's, Houston, right? We talked about right now energy. Remember Houston, Texas? Everybody talked about what, everybody? Oil, energy. We're a more diversified economy now. And what reason is that? Austin, high tech. And we've seen that growth in the economy. And one of the drivers in this economy is, of course, the Austin economy also.
So let's talk about employment, because that's going to have an impact. I do want to ask the audience real quick, how many of you would say, is it easy to find an employee? Is it difficult or not so easy? How many say it's easy to find an employee? Raise your hand. This one. Is it difficult to find employees today? And for who does it not matter? I'm looking for all my fellow government employees and all these to raise their hand. So I think when we see the unemployment rates, and of course everyone knows Austin has a really low unemployment rate. Lawrence consistently has a low unemployment rate. And I would say I've been in casual conversation with a single entrepreneur. I want to set the pattern, be correct about how I frame this. And one of the reasons that this business owner talked to me about, ultimately it looks like getting out of business, is how difficult it was to find consistent, reliable employees. So talk a little bit about the impact. The positive side, of course, if we have low unemployment, then that means that they have money to spend and a lot of opportunities there. On the other hand, some of the smaller businesses may find some difficulty in finding employees in a very tight employment market. So it's sort of one of those things. So you have any comments? I'm going to head it over to you now.
So it's really interesting. Right now, if you heard this phrase, right? We're in a low hiring, low firing economy right now. Companies are not hiring, but the good news, they're not firing, right? True reasons for that. One is labor command. Labor productivity is increasing, the effects of AI. And also, I mentioned this earlier, the labor supply effect, right? Immigrant workers. So that's a fact, especially about high tech, quality workers. And it's interesting, this has been the story post-pandemic, even pre-pandemic, right? I think post-pandemic, especially it increased the difficulty, and we've heard it from a lot of sources, roundtables, businesses here in the state of Texas, the difficulty to find skilled workers. And it's interesting, people still have that raise their hand. And we still see that up in the surveys. The difficulty of finding skilled workers, that still persists in our economy, right? And I think that's an issue. Will continue, especially if you add the effects of current immigration policy, right? That's going to affect labor supply going forward, especially high tech, right? Because not just low skill. I had the opportunity. I was showing
one of our surveys, again, you mentioned earlier, we monitor also the effects of immigration policy effects on Texas companies. And I was giving a talk, this in Houston, and somebody from the audience asked me a question. Luis, hey, and you know what? Like, I would disagree with you, so I disagree, not to agree with you, about the effect of immigration policy on me, on us. I'm high tech. And like, you sure? Like, and I just gave an example of nurses, right? Well, a lot of nurses are from other countries, right now, right? So think about those. It's not just affecting low scale job or low scale supply side jobs, but also high scale supply side jobs.
Hourly wages. Employers have to decide and be prepared for what wages they need to be ready to pay. And what are the trends that you're seeing economically in hourly wages?
So right now what we're seeing is that they're slowing down. Why they're slowing down? Think about if you took a 101 class in economics, the first thing they tell you once they teach you what's supply demand, right, everybody? So think about the labor markets, like any other market. So the wage is the price. So what happens with the price growth starts to slow down? That means everyone knew what's happening. The labor market was weakening, right, or stabilizing. So that's one reason why we see that slowdown in wage growth. It's still solid. It's not post-COVID, right? But why again? Why do we see that strong labor and strong wage growth post-COVID? Because the labor demand was growing at a higher rate than labor supply, right? But right now, with stabilization of the labor market, kind of the weakening a little bit of that labor market, we're seeing a slowdown in wage growth.
No, I do want to come back to the business cycle indexes. If you could unpack what are the components of the business cycle index.
So the business cycle index was they're brave. They're real summary or picture what's happening with the economy. They're made of employment, wages, the employment rate, and it kind of tells you what's happening. Instead of me talking about 5 indicators in the economy or 3 indicators in the economies, this quiz indicators what they do is it tells you the business cycle in the local economy or the state or national economies. That's what they do. They're a summary indicator of what's currently happening. So we've done this for many years. A colleague of mine from the San Antonio Fed was a big pusher. His name was Keith Phillips. If you ever started Keith Phillips talk and Dallas Fed, he was one of the first ones to push these indicators. We have one for Texas also, if you debate your MSAs. We have a lead indicator for the state also. Again, by leading what does that mean? Again, it's a lot. Energy prices help run an index. It tells you where the economy is growing. So they're really good indicators to tell you, to give you a picture, right, of what's happening currently in the business cycle and the economy. Let me just add one thing. The other product we have is really cool. Nobody else has this one, is we do a Texas employment forecast, basically. But the way it just came out last Friday. So when the Texas Workforce Commission comes out with their numbers, we get those numbers for the state of Texas, and then we do a forecast for Texas employment. Right now, our forecast, our latest number for Texas employment growth in 2026 is 1.8%. I mentioned this earlier, employment growth in the state of Texas, 2%, 1.8%. But let me just add some little caveat there. 1.8 is not bad, right? You're around 2%, you're allowed the lower, correct? Let me add a caveat. But giving, again, the labor demand weakening, labor demand weakening because of labor productivity and the labor supply effects of immigration policies, we're actually expecting Texas employment growth in 2026 to be around 1.2%. Okay, so 1.2%, where that's our forecast for employment growth in 2026, and that's below our 2% historical trend. So just think about it. And last year, by the way, if people follow the Texas economy, how much did employment grow? How much Texas employment growth grew last year in the Texas economy? How much do you think it grew? Last year, 2025, in Austin. Was it a good year or a bad year, or kind of a mild? It was a good year. No, employment growth, though. So I've done this before coming back to the Dallas Fed. I worked at A&M for 10 years at the real estate center. You follow, they do a great job talking about the economy. I've given talks around the state. It was always great to talk about the strength of the Texas economy, right? We're still strong, still solid. But employment growth was incredible, right? I would come up, Austin, 3%, 4% growth, 5% growth, Texas up to 2%. Actually, last year, employment growth for Texas was almost 0%. So Austin was really low, almost 1%, 0%, flat for us. So think about what we're saying now. For 2 years straight, we expect really flat employment growth, even for the great state of Texas.
So what does that mean practically? Unemployment rate's been going down, employment growth has stood. Practically, what does it mean?
So the good news is that, again, bad news, not a lot of growth, still a solid growth. Good news, still positive growth. But the good news is we haven't seen that and the employment growth. Companies are unfortunately not far. The good news are not far into laying off employees right now. So that kind of shows you that, yes, you're growing, output is still growing, production is growing, revenue production is growing, but companies are not hiring and demanding workers as before, right?
So I want to lean into your Texas A&M background with the real estate group over there. And home prices and home inventories, we saw a peak in loan prices. People were getting emails, I forgot the name of the entity that sends you that email every month saying, this is what your home is valued. Everyone gets that email, right? And you're seeing it go up and up and up. And then all of a sudden, you're seeing it go down, down, and down. So what's going on with home prices in the Austin metro area? And how does that affect business, the whole economic activity in general?
So right now, the housing market overall is not just in Austin thing. It's a weak housing market, right?
Why is that? Because real estate markets, especially the housing market, is really interest rate sensitive. So what happened? We saw this strong growth even before the pandemic. I know the pandemic accelerated the growth in the housing market, right? Crazy numbers, right? Especially here in Austin. I followed those numbers. I saw trapped though, right? Sales were crazy, months of inventory, historical lows, prices were like going out of the, going at really, really high rates, double-digit rates for housing prices. But what happened, right? Inflation became an issue. Then, of course, in 2022, major change in monetary policy by our central bank. The Fed started its hike cycle. Interest rates went up. And what happened to the housing market? Who was the first market to hit? Who was hit because of higher interest rates? The housing market, right? And we've seen the weakness continues. Why has the weakness continued in the housing market? It continues now is because current interest rates are still high. Of course, a lot of people at that time, after post-pandemic, got a 30-year mortgage at a really low rate, the lock-in effect, right? So right now, where would you go and get a 6% 30-year mortgage when you initially got a 3% 30-year rate, right? So it's that's a cost right there. So right now, we see that weakness. As you mentioned, housing prices are flat, in some cases down, especially for high-end houses, right? If you look at the tiers of the composition by price ranges, the higher end price ranges are the ones that are in the most. Because still, the good news is affordability is less an issue. It's still an issue also. We know that. And the months of inventory, of course, if you want a house with a price back $300,000, there's gonna be a problem with that for the demand for that type of housing, right? Or that price of housing. But for the higher end housings, that's where you see more the weakness, right? In the housing market.
I want to close out. We have about 8 minutes left before we invite the rest of the panelists up, but I want to talk about exporting in Mexico. You have a passion for trade with Mexico. So for those, how many people here are in the import-export business or want to be in the import-export business? Raise your hand. All right, we have a few people. So talk a little bit about what the outlook is for exporting to Mexico.
So let me just start by saying, I don't know, you know this, but Texas is another thing where they were number one in the nation, is where we're the number one exporting state in the nation. Texas is the number one exporting state in the nation, but not California. Or I said that word. It's Texas. It's Texas is the number one exporting state in the nation.
So the trade, the relationship, the economic kind of relationship, the community, the cultural relationship, we know all this with Texas, with Mexico, right? It goes beyond, it's trade, but all these effects. So it's interesting to see, how even that relationship with Mexico has evolved. We recently we were asked, a colleague of mine here at the Fed, colleagues, Jesus Calles and Brendan Kelly, we were asked to do discuss, as you know, right now, what's happening. You go follow this right now. So we're the all three governments, the U.S. government, Mexican government, and Canadian government are talking about USFCA, its ratification. But this is going to have a big impact in our Texas economy and the U.S. economy, and of course the world economy. All the economies involved here. But they asked us to talk about, look at the trade relationship, the employment relationship, industrial, what's happening in all three countries. So what we found was really interesting, how trade reacts to incentives and how it has to evolve. Why am I saying this? Right now, if you look at the trade numbers between Mexico and the U.S. specifically, you see that, yes, there's a big relationship between automotive, right? Between Mexico and the U.S. Their products, to be this yes, add this little note here, this little nubby. Their products in trade between Mexico and the U.S., it costs 8 times the border. So there's something that's built in Austin or in San Antonio, goes to Monterey, goes back here to Tennessee, goes back to Wisconsin, goes back and it goes back to Monterey, Guanajuato, Juarez, Tijuana, So some products actually cost 8 times the war. That shows you there are interconnection between the economies, and especially manufacturing, that makes North America more competitive. So what's interesting right now, and some of the things we found that was really interesting was the evolution of trade relationship between our countries and how it makes us more competitive. Why am I saying that? What is the major driver right now in the U.S. economy? The major industry sector. What's the major numero uno driver right now in the U.S. economy? AI. Correct. So what do you think happened with trade with Mexico? It evolved. AI. We're importing more what? Servers from Mexico. Cables that go into the servers from Mexico. They've grown at a really exponential rate. Why? And answer the changing demand and manufacturing in our own country. And that shows you the linkages we have. And that it allows us to become more competitive and supply the goods that we need, right? So that's really interesting to see those things. Other really good, interesting thing, we had a look, we tracked, there's some data on the number of things that we import from Mexico that come under USMCA. So let's say Hobbiton wants to import a server from Mexico, but he wants to use you under USMCA to enter with it to take advantage of the tariffs, right? Of the free trade agreement. So he goes in, he registers, he files the paperwork, he imports active. So before the liberation day, April, around 50% of the goods we imported from Mexico were under USMCA. 50%. What do you think happened after Liberation Day? Do you think that percentage of people using USMCA to import things increase or decrease? It increased. Around 90% now of the goods we import from Mexico and Canada are now under USMCA. Big change. I love it as an economist. Why? Because economists like to always talk about households, businesses respond to incentives. When the incentives change, when the rules of the game change, what did businesses do? They took advantage of the best option. And what they did, for me beforehand, oh my God, doing all the paperwork to do, can they import to USMCA was too time and too costly. But after Liberation Day, the incentives changed. And what do now? I import my goods through USMCA.
Let's give Dr. Torres a hand. I do have my last seeker question, which is if you were a small business owner, what data would you be paying most attention to?
So I would definitely, for me, employment, unemployment, labor employment, and of course interest rates.
Thank you very much. One of the great things about reading these introductions is I haven't had to go to my reading glasses yet. So thank you, Dr. Torres, for setting the stage with those insightful perspectives. We'll now broaden the conversation and welcome the full panel of leaders joining us today. Each brings deep expertise from across the federal service, entrepreneurship, community empowerment, and regional economic development. Their combined experience will help us explore how economic trends, small business resources, and innovation ecosystems intersect to shape opportunities across Texas, across Austin, the region, and the state. To continue the discussion, I'm pleased to introduce our remaining panelists. David L. Elizondo serves as District Director for the U.S. Small Business Administration in San Antonio, returning to the agency in June 2024 after previously holding the role of Deputy District Director from 2019 to 2023. His SBA career began as branch manager for the Corpus Christi branch office. Before entering federal service, Davis served more than 4 years in the United States Air Force as a security forces journeyman, completing multiple overseas assignments and 2 tours in the Middle East. He holds both a bachelor's in business administration with a concentration in computer information systems and a master of business administration from the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. Building on this foundation of public service and business leadership, the next speaker brings more than 2 decades of experience in empowering entrepreneurs and advancing economic mobility. Let's welcome David L. Elizondo. Roland Pena serves as the Senior Vice President of Global Investment and Innovation for Opportunity Austin, the 5-county regional economic development initiative designed to strengthen and diversify the Austin economy. Since joining the organization in 2018, he has held several key roles, including Senior Vice President of Global Technology and Innovation and Vice President of Economic Development, building on his 34-year career in economic development. Roland leads strategic initiatives that advance global investment, enhance Austin's innovation ecosystem, and fosters partnerships that strengthen the region's economic competitiveness. His forward-looking leadership in international relations, technology sectors, and startup engagement has reinforced Austin's reputation as a global hub for innovation and entrepreneurship. He is an active member of the Texas Economic Development Council and the International Economic Development Council. Mr. Pena holds a Bachelor's of Business Administration and Management and a Master of Business Administration and International Trade from Sul Ross State University. Let's welcome Roland Pena. Dr. Claudette Morgan Scott is the Director of the Entrepreneurship and Economic Empowerment Center for the Austin Area Urban League and the founder and CEO of Morgan Scott Management Consultants, LLC, and Morgan Scott Construction Company, LLC. With more than 25 years in management and a specialization in business education and development, she brings a dynamic global perspective to empowering clients and strengthening their organizational vision. As an adjunct professor at the University of Mary Hardin-Baylor, a global speaker, and a business leader, Dr. Morgan Scott has played an instrumental role in advancing humanitarian initiatives, promoting social justice, and training emerging leaders around the world. She is committed to helping aspiring and established business owners refine their vision, develop actionable strategies, and build the leadership skills needed for growth on both local and global stages. Welcome, Dr. Morgan Scott. So just to give you an idea of the format, I'm going to start off with some questions, general questions for the entire panelists, and then we'll go to some questions for each of the panelists, and then I really encourage the panelists to interact with each other, to comment if they have things to say about some of the answers we have, and we're going to spend about the last 15 minutes, 10:30 to 10:45, with questions from the audience. Does that sound good? All right. So, from each of your unique perspectives, what are the most important trends affecting growth in Austin? And we'll start with Dr. Morgan Scott and work our way back across.
Good morning, everybody. I'm not sure. Oh, here we go. You caught me by surprise. And I was indeed, and I saw it so funny. And thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be in the room. It's an absolute privilege. What I'm seeing in terms of just my experience working just across, not just Austin, but globally. One of the trends it's pessimistic because no, but what I love is Austin is cautiously optimistic, and there is still growth. And Dr. Tourette's, thanks, you. Awesome, thank you. Now I have to hear myself, right? What's interesting is I have the opportunity to work across the globe, just having that transatlantic footprint. But Austin is cautiously optimistic, while the rest of the globe is pessimistic. I love that. I love being in Austin. I love this region. We're doing a great job in terms of supporting entrepreneurship and just allowing people to have their concept, to develop that concept, but supporting that concept. There's tremendous amounts of resources right here in the Austin area. But resources with great wisdom. So ensure that people do not fail. We support that. And, there's a lot of research that's available. So I love that. And then another thing is what I've seen is cost pressure, in the sense of once people develop their ideas and concepts, it's very difficult to get real estate in the Austin area. They're having to move outside of the Austin area, although they have an Austin business. Especially for startups, it is challenging in terms of the finances to be located in Austin. So that's one of the trends that I'm seeing as I'm working with clients.
Testing. Can you hear? Should I hold it? Test. Thank you. Thanks so much for the honor of asking Opportunity Austin to be here today. It's a privilege. From our vantage point and Opportunity Austin, growth is being shaped by three converging dynamics for us. Industry diversification, talent migration, and capital availability. We're seeing a sustained momentum in advanced industries like semiconductors, aerospace, defense, life sciences, sectors that not only expand locally, but are anchoring long-term economic resilience for us. At the same time, Austin continues to benefit from inbound talent, particularly with highly skilled workers relocating from coastal markets, east and west, which reinforces our innovation ecosystem. That translates into measurable outcomes. Austin has been ranked as a top performing metro by the American Institute for 19 consecutive years, and a recent BLS data shows we led top 50 U.S. metros in job growth in 2025. Layer on top of that, a strong capital environment. Austin posted its strongest venture capital quarter Q1 in the history of Austin,
and you have a market that is not just growing, but compounding on its advantages. That's due to a diversified economy.
Good morning. And happy National Small Business Week. So for trends and impacts to small businesses, two things that jump to mind, and I'm going to say the two A's, and I'm not saying Alcohol's Anonymous here. It's going to be access to capital and awareness. So to my colleague's point here about access to capital, Dr. Torres mentioned earlier today about the interest rates being high right now, and SBA's loan rates are driven by the Wall Street prime rate. And so when Dr. Johnson was up here earlier talking about the initiative from the city about a 0% interest loan for small businesses, that's the type of stuff we also like to support and advocate for to small businesses. We always approach small businesses with the mindset of what are your opportunities, what are your options. So we have SBA loan programs mainly for small business owners who do not qualify for traditional lending. The requirements for SBA loans are a little less strict than commercial. For example, if a bank says, I need a credit score for minimum 700, you can possibly get an SBA loan even if you're in the 500s. And that's where we try to leverage our SBA traditional lenders. The other one is awareness. And what I mean by awareness is the resources that are in your community. So I'll naturally advocate for the SBA Resource Partners, which is the Small Business Development Center and SCORE. But here in Austin, there's a big ecosystem to support small businesses. Opportunity Austin, you have the Austin EGBI, Austin Area Urban League as well. You need to leverage those resources so you can be better prepared as you take the next step to grow your small business. Most importantly is leveraging SBA, and we have a website of all this information as well. We do breakout sessions, we do trainings, we try to partner with, for example, the City of Austin Economic Development Department as well. So you could be aware of the resources that are available to you. Thank you. Just to add, I mentioned this earlier, the Vika mentioned AI. I think that's been a major driver of not only Texas economy, but national economy, but locally also, and also healthcare. Healthcare, I think, is one of the sectors that shows strength. If you just look at the employment numbers for the past years, 12 years, one of the employment drivers has been healthcare.
The second general question I'm going to ask is, how do you think national trends are affecting Austin? And we'll start with you, Dr. Torres, and work our way back across. And then, and do you think there are trends in Austin that are affecting the national economy? We'll start with you, Dr. Torres.
So regarding trends, I get this. That's the one of the comparing nations to Austin has is that, right? It's the tech. Then they can benefit us, the Austin economy, taking advantage of the AI growth jump there. And also the healthcare, you could make you to invest to Austin healthcare. I think that's another big issue in Austin. It's also which can take advantage of that growth natural.
Diversifying your portfolio, I think that's something else that would help out tremendously. So on a local level here in Austin, we do see a bunch of small businesses coming this way. For example, state of Texas has 35 million right now? Oh, nationwide, there's 36 million small businesses, and Texas represents a good chunk of that here. A lot of small businesses are coming this way. Of course, the larger corporations that come, what do they need? They need that supply chain behind it. So you need to leverage, those corporations as well. But also, since I do represent a district, San Antonio being home to Military City, USA, there's a lot of opportunities to also do work for the federal government as well. So even though you're located here in Austin, I highly encourage you all to also glance in San Antonio to see what opportunities exist for the federal government contracting opportunities.
So nationally, we're seeing supply chain realignment and a push for domestic manufacturing with a greater emphasis on resilience and geopolitical risk mitigation. Austin and Texas more broadly, we're receiving a direct beneficiary from these shifts, particularly with federal investments in the CHIPS Act. You talk about what's changing, what's affecting nationally. The CHIPS Act is affecting nationally. Texas is leading at the forefront by accelerating the semiconductor expansion. What's also unique about Austin is how the national tailwinds intersect with a already mature innovation ecosystem. Many markets are trying to build what Austin already has. We have a strong talent pipeline. We have an established tech base that Dr. Torres mentioned, and we have what is really unique and sets us apart is a very collaborative business environment. Additionally, Austin's able to scale across multiple industries because of our diversity. Simultaneously, tech, manufacturing, aerospace, clean energy. It's relatively rare elsewhere. It's not a one sector growth story. It's a multi-sector expansion happening parallel.
Thank you. So one thing that I found while Webley funds anyways because of the interest rates and the height of the interest rate, people are being cautious about borrowing money. And then with that, they're having to look at how do I support my business venture, especially for women, because we all know that venture capital funding, women get 2% of that for lots of different reasons, and we won't go into that. But part of the issue is finding family members. I'm working with someone that moved from a food truck to a brick and mortar, and her family members are having to support her financially. So, there's definitely an issue in terms of, cautious lending, also, cautious borrowing. Along with that, the slow growth in terms of people trying to hire and purchase equipment that is affecting the market. Also, the other piece that is affecting the market is, we just talked about the supply chain and really developing a network. Because a lot of the times we think that we've emerged really well out of COVID, but as soon as a crisis hits, it's showing that we really haven't emerged as well as we thought we had. Gas prices have gone up. How do we, emerge and be solid? We wouldn't be impacted by the growth in the price of different products or services. So we still have a lot of work to do in terms of our supply chain.
Thank you. David, in the post-PPP loan world, how many of you remember the SBA PPP loans? Raise your hand. How many remember what PPP stands for? Nobody? I don't. I know it has payroll, right? Is payroll in the PPP? Thank you so much, Payroll Protection Program. So in the post-payroll protection program world, David, which loan programs are attracting the most attention, and how can small businesses take advantage of them at the SBA?
So who heard of SBA before the COVID? Okay, good to chunk people. You'd be surprised sometimes, like, I met people that, like, I never knew SBA did more than loans. They didn't know about the government contracting assistance or SBA resource partners. So and homeowners too. Where does that? Yeah, that's correct. We'll get there. So we're seeing a growing interest in our flagship programs. 7A, 504 are the main ones that we have. So 7A is the most utilized one that can be used for working capital, equipment, business expansions, while the 504 is for like commercial real estate or fixed assets because of the long fixed rates that we have there. We're also seeing an increase because we know a lot of new startups have smaller loan requirements, and when we say smaller, typically $50,000 or less. So a lot of micro loans are starting to be picked up as well from startups and even existing small businesses. How do I prepare for that is the other part to this. And you want to make sure that your information is up to date now. So when you go to your banker, if you have an established relationship with your current banker, leverage that. But if you don't, we have a whole network, which I can probably talk a little more about later, of non-traditional bankers that you can work with as well. So, it's good to have an outside perspective of your business model. It's not always the greatest to go to your significant other who's always going to be biased with, hey, you're doing a great job. This is a great idea. But how about a business advisor that, guess what? You don't have to pay for. So instead of paying hundreds if not thousands of dollars to have a business advisor tell you what to do, you get to work with an SBA business advisor at no cost. Here in Austin, there's one at Texas State SPDC, which is located, I think it's where the old Highlands Mall used to be, where Austin College is now, Austin Community College. Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. And then also the SCORE as well. So these are networks of folks on standby ready to assist you all as you prepare to start a small business or expand your small business to needing access to capital.
Roll it.
Yes. So just a comment. I work with a lot of startups, mainly in the tech field. We're currently, our ecosystem has something like over 10,000 starters and something like 10,500 startups. The entire ecosystem is about 15,000 when you add those supply services to those startups. I have a lot of startups that come to me and they're wanting venture capital and investors and the like, or be an angel investment. And I always point them up to the SBA or the SBDC. And I say, look, why you're making 1,000% profit? Why do you want to dilute your equity when you can get a loan based on these financials, build a reputation, build some credibility, scale, improve your valuation, and then maybe go back for another loan with the SBA, SBDC. I've done that numerous times. They're the best resource that I point our startups to.
Well, actually, I was getting ready to go to you, but I'm going to ask Dr. Morgan Scott, are your clients that are coming to you for assistance, are they looking for help with access to venture capital, or are they looking for help with small business loans, or are they dependent on their own savings and family resources to fund their businesses?
So I'd receive a range of clients. Like Roland, I refer clients to the SBA for financing. And, so I see myself as part of a community resource. And it's important to know what's in the community. And, the past couple of weeks, I've learned tremendous amounts about what the data said and, provide. So, our 21 program, because we offer a 12-week co-op program where we look at concepts right up very in the concept to debugging that concept into a solution to a problem. And because people come to me and that, they have great ideas, but it doesn't solve a problem. It's a great idea. So, what's going on? Have you done your research? What's the need? Where are we going? In the next, 5, 10, 20 years, what could happen, and then if my business needs to pivot, if I'm an existing business, so these are some bits that we talk about. So we look at the available resources and feed it into and what's available and making sure that we are informed and educated. And then really looking at putting the value proposition on my product or service. There's sometimes I can make an emotional decision because I love what I do, but the value is not correct.
Roland, for those companies in the audience that are seeing you an opportunity in Austin, recruit all these new industries, recruit all these new firms. So we have all these firms coming to Austin. And of course, if I'm out in the audience and I'm a small business owner, I'm going to want to know, how can I sell to them? Am I right? You're looking for customers. So how can they keep track of all the new industries and new firms you're recruiting so they can develop a sales strategy to take advantage of all this growth?
Let me give you some insight on that, on those recruitment numbers that we publish. They're on the website, but these are strategic. So our recruitment strategy is highly targeted and aligned with long-term regional strengths. So you've heard some of the industries that I've spoke about. We're very focused on advanced manufacturing, semiconductors, aerospace, defense, life science, next generation mobility, energy technologies. We're also continuing to attract corporate headquarters and high-value office users in finance, fintech, professional business services, and those companies that want to optimize their costs while maintaining access to top-tier talent. We post all our relocations and expansions on our website, numerous on our website. So that's one way to watch the market. We're posting these on a monthly basis. You can see the square footage, you can see the number of jobs, you can see the industry sector. But one other point that I want to make, we're not just recruiting companies, we're building ecosystems. This means we're prioritizing firms that complement our existing clusters, deepen supply chains, and create multiplier effects. One of the things you'll notice, and Dr. Torres mentioned, we're very diversified, and that's because our industry clusters are large. What happens when you have large industry clusters? There's a lot of opportunity for innovation, a lot of opportunity for new startups. So I would stay, focused on what's developing in Austin. The Austin Business Journal is one source that I would point you to because they report almost every single announcement or a permit that's been applied for by a major company.
Dr. Torres, I do believe the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas also tracks small business lending. Could you talk a little bit about what you're seeing in the marketplace through the lens of the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas?
So I don't. That's a great. We do track it, but there's a survey for that. I know we don't track that for nature. The small lending part of it. Just be honest with us. If you're interested, we have a great group of colleagues at the Fed who look at community development and look at community, and they track it over. But yes, we have a national survey that we actually ask small business about finance, and it's a good, really good information to know what's happening in small we're small with that percent is on it.
Thank you, Dr. Torres. Now, one of the things, I'm going to go to you, David, next, but I know when I first started in this business in 1988, the number one issue, 88, 86, I lost track here. The number one issue when I talked to small business owners was access to capital. That was the one most important thing that people would ask about, were concerned about over and over again. My question to the audience, and to get David to respond, is that still an issue, access to capital? So access to capital is still an issue. So David, could you walk them through the loan process? How can they prepare themselves? How do they find SBA lenders? Just give them a sense of what they need to do to take advantage of the SBA loan programs.
So if you're a small business owner, and I'll give you a little backstory before diving in. So actually, when I was a college student working on my undergraduate, I actually started a small business. And unfortunately, it didn't pan out. Why? I was not well prepared, and I didn't know, and we talked about this a couple of times, the resource partner, someone that can review your P&L statement, your cash flows, your balance sheets. If you don't have that, number one, we need to get in front of a business advisor ASAP so we can start reviewing your documentation. Since joining SBA, though, my perspective of lending has changed dramatically, because when we think of loans, we think of traditional bankers, every flagship bank that you see on the corners. But there's more to our network than just our traditional lenders. We have something called, and I'm going to say this as an acronym first, and then I'll say it out loud, CDFI, CDCs, the Community Development Financial Institutions, Certified Development Companies. Just hear me out on this. If you are a CDFI, CDC, please raise your hand. So everyone that's a small business owner, you may want to get your business card ready and approach these individuals. It never hurts to have them in your back pocket. Okay. Now, Mr. Brian here with the BCL, we have Lip Fund, people on here in the house too. And I got to say, a lot of times when people get denied loan from traditional banks, that's not your last stop. You also have these folks also as an option as well. And so, Lip Fund, People Fund are considered SBA micro lenders. So if you're thinking of a loan of $50,000 or less, and they have folks on standby to provide technical assistance, coaching. They do cohorts of classes as well. Sometimes, every so often, they offer cohorts where if you finish it, you are eligible for a discounted interest rate of the loan as well. See, I still got it there, sir. But there's another tool I want to introduce you all to today, and it kind of started right before COVID. It kind of shifted gears during COVID, but then it went back to its original routes. It's called SBA Lender Match. You'd be surprised how many banks offer loans for small businesses that are not geographically located where you are. So a lot of banks, for example, might be out of Florida or something, that are giving out loans to small businesses in the Austin market as well. So what I say is always work with the bank that you've already been established with, right? You have a relationship with them. Number two, work with potentially a non-traditional lender, as we talked about, the CDFI, CDCs as well. what I like to see, and I'm tracking this quite often, is sometimes microlenders are partnering with the cities to offer a discounted interest rate as well. So pay attention to the city of Austin EDD to see if they're offering a discounted loan interest, which they are actually. Dr. Johnson just mentioned that 0%. But also take a look at lender match as well. Keep your options available. So don't just settle on the first stop. Perhaps the next one may offer a lower interest rate or different capital injection requirements. So always shop around before you decide to pull the trigger on getting a loan.
Thank you. One of the things that I noticed in Dr. Morgan Scott's background that she shared with Small Business Division was the importance of vision. I don't know how many of the entrepreneurs in the audience have you written a vision or a mission statement? Raise your hand. So that is something I want Dr. Morgan Scott to talk about, because I would imagine when times change, do visions need to change? Missions need to change as the economic circumstances, what we're going through, paradigm shifts, shocks, etc. How does that affect vision and mission?
It absolutely affects vision. One of the things I tell people is your business plan is a roadmap, and it's not, the tech. It's not tapped the stone. Because sometimes you work so hard, we build on, to the document and we've created, and let me finish it, right? And this is my hard work. Sometimes going to hit roadblocks. So one of the things, that I do suggest is that we have a reality check and have that periodically. And, don't wait for a crisis to happen. You've got to have a reality check in terms of your business, applying your business concepts, the vision. And with that is to review your financials, get customer feedback, look at market trends and ask about those market trends, and look at, is your current direction still viable or profitable? Because you don't want to continue on a path where the profit is very little, then you get to crisis point where you run out of money. You need to keep it while you do have something. That's important. So the second thing is to actually replan balance of your purpose and your impact. I be impactful is my decision idea. Be impactful, because sometimes we struggle with pivoting and to think that you're gonna put on the vision and that we created, and it really isn't. It's just proof. One of the books I'm reading right now is about John Paxson, How to Get a Return on Failure. I think you never see failure without success. You have to be able to see it as a point of learning and you're moving forwards. And, I teach people on how to forward. Right. So you've got to be able to review, to clarify, to remind your capabilities where you're called in the current market. Some things you have to educate yourself. Education, education, education. I'm going to need education. I believe do the work, do the research, and it dictates at the beginning to do the work. And, part of that is to look at your exit plan at the very beginning. And a lot of people fail to look at their exit plan. How am I going to exit out of this? It doesn't work. What indicators have you set for yourself? What is the goals? What are the performance indicators? What are the objectives? And you've got to be realistic about that. And it's okay to change direction. It really is. It's okay.
All right, before we open it up to the audience, I want to make sure, David, I got your question in, which is what new programs does the U.S. Small Business Administration have going on?
No pressure there for closing this out. New program. So just so I have a better feel, do we have any manufacturers or someone in the food chain industry here? Oh, we got one. We got a couple. Kind of the theme for today has been access to capital. And so, that's part of the major initiatives of this current administration is Made in America initiative. And so particularly there's a 7A loan program called the MARC, the Manufacturer's Access to Revolving Credit. There's a Working Capital Pilot Program. And as of May 1st, there's also an SBA Grocery Guarantee Program. So if you know someone in the food supply chain, please have a look at SBA's latest initiative as of May 1st. So that was just a few days ago, and come to think about it. We still have our traditional, we really didn't talk about this much, but I'll still throw out there so you all can prepare for the future, is disaster loans as well. So SBA does not do loans directly. We work with traditional bankers, CDFIs, CDCs, as I discussed. But if there's ever a disaster and your small business has been impacted, you may want to keep out on declarations, disaster declarations, because you might be eligible for a low interest loan. And why I say this is important, because I was in Corpus Christi, 2017 Hurricane Harvey hit, of course, the pandemic, COVID. And a lot of small businesses were kind of caught off guard. You go to their insurance. I need help. I'm losing revenue. Road closed in front of me. I'm losing revenue again. Customers are walking through my door. So I would encourage to look at and peruse the economic injury disaster loan. That's through SBA directly. As you file your claim through your insurance, money gets paid up to the insurance. Okay, and then you pay back the loan. What happened, especially like Hurricane Harvey, is a lot of small businesses like, okay, now I need to go get a disaster loan like 3 weeks after when that deadline already closed. That's an opportunity you missed out on potentially. And so, as far as assistance, again, we still continue to leverage our SBA resource partners. Those are our legacy programs. And so, if there's anything to take away from today, if you are not familiar with our SBA resource partners, so there's me and David with the Small Business Administration, but throughout the entire United States, there's thousands of small business development centers, Veterans Business Outreach Centers for my veteran small business owners, and SCORE as well. Encourage for you all to look at those individuals to get some free at your taxpayers' money, technical assistance. I'd hate to work for free, but essentially it's at no cost.
Thank you, David. So we're going to open it up now for questions from the audience, for our panelists. If you have a question, please stand up so that you can go ahead and directly ask the question, and ask one question, and then so we can make our way back around. Yes.
All right. Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for our panel for being here. First, I want to say thank you to any veterans in the room. Thank you for your service. I've been part of that community for 23 years. So, which will bring me right into my question. So in December 25, the state changed the VUP program certification, which was a state certification for women-owned businesses and minorities. That was changed to Vet Hub Heroes United in Business. What are you seeing as an impact for those businesses that were needing that certification to help them bid on state agencies and university contracts? Since that's changed, because it was about 15,000 businesses that approximately helped. That number is predicted to change since it's veteran-owned businesses. So just ask, what are the trends? What do you see? How's that affecting these small business?
So from my perspective, I'm not seeing much of a change in the trend. Entrepreneurs still need help, still need assistance. I love this city because it's not focused on just historically unutilized business. It is about helping all businesses. The resources are available.
On the federal side of the house, it still stands for historically underutilized business certification. So, I know this is a state-led initiative, right?
Right, not to be confused with Hub Zone, which is a federal certification, but the historically underutilized business, which that no longer exists, that have been changed to Vet Hub. So asking, what impacts are you seeing with small businesses? Because that was to ensure that they could bid on contracts to the state level. So now that that's gone and that's for veterans only, what are you seeing the impacts affecting these small business owners, being that we're allowing them to be able to compete for those contracts, and that is no longer available?
My clients are still competing for the contracts.
Yes.
And they're still being considered.
Right.
Yeah.
Perhaps the question is, what does she see?
Yeah.
Reversing that too. So
What are you?
Wait. Let's not get this out of control. No. This is a panel discussion, not an audience. Answer all the questions. So appreciate the question. Absolutely. Definitely. It's certainly something that has to be in consideration. So we're going to keep moving forward. Who was next? Okay.
So we look at small businesses in Austin. The conversation overwhelmingly falls to tech. I get it, as high as layers as I get. The majority of small businesses in Austin are not about tech it goes near. They're not in the startup venture capital acquisition process. And a lot of small businesses, therefore, have different concerns, different things they're looking for. venture capitalists don't invest, operates. That's not. So when we start talking about small businesses in Austin, how does the narrative change if you scope the tech ecosystem? Like if you just look at the traditional businesses who want to be businesses and not, go for a venture acquisition to Google or whatever, how does the small business ecosystem change Austin?
That's a good question. Yes. When an opportunity started, Opportunity Austin, came to be in the early 2000s, we were all tech. We were not diversified. And I wasn't here then, but what I hear from the people that had lived here for a long time was this economy was a boom bust cycle type of economy. And it wasn't until that we started diversifying that we became much more resilient. And so that allowed businesses like small businesses to thrive in this type of economy. So I would say that we need to continue to bring industry. You heard Dr. Torres talk about data centers. So we believe that there are some industries that are developing around data centers. We live in the fastest growing mega regions in the nation, in the Texas Triangle. We're right from the middle of the Texas Triangle. Everywhere you look, there is construction. Construction for transportation, construction for mobility, construction for industrial space, construction for commercial space, construction for retail, for lodging. All of those create service-type related industries. You mentioned, the taqueria or food truck. One of our most famous startups is what's the Cali? Torchy's Tacos, a multi-billion-dollar business from a taqueria, and we have many of those. So I would say we need to continue to foster that diversity, but I also think small business person needs to work much more diligently. In other words, be engaged, stay ahead of the trends that are happening now that are developing. Speak to those in the ecosystem. Universities are a good resource. SBDCs, SBAs, those are good resources. Workforce development programs are good resources. City economic development organizations are good resources. Economic development organizations in the region, all of these, our organization has multiple different memberships. I mean, we have a real estate agent. All of these folks are tied in. They're learning on a monthly basis, what is a trend, what is developing, what is this new vertical, and what's it going to do? How are we going to be impacted by these tariffs? That kind of information is invaluable. And I would say that as long as we wait to determine when is stability going to take place, that's time, and time is money. And you need to be determining what is that plan. How do you need to pivot? Like you were saying, how do you need to pivot, and how do you need to take advantage so that you could, so that it benefits.
Yes, sir. Then there. Okay, go.
Thank you. Thank you for for all your insights. I loved your conversation before. I want to ask a question based on some of the assumptions that I believe to be reasonable. I think it's reasonable to expect that interest rates will
Put the microphone.
won't come down anytime soon. I believe it's reasonable to expect that prices will continue to rise, particularly producer prices for all businesses that have inputs coming from other countries. And then I think it's reasonable to say that the current immigration climate is presenting many challenges for Texas businesses. I agree with Rhoda Peña that for new startups going for an SBA loan may be more beneficial to not get your equity diluted through venture capital. However, just 2 months ago, the SBA started banning any non-citizens from accessing SBA-backed resources. Even if you are a permanent resident and start a business to break up, you can have access to this. So given this, and this is a question not only for David, that can be for everyone, what recommendations do you have for small businesses in the current business climate? Are you seeing businesses bootstrapping in the short term? Are you seeing businesses raising prices? At times we may be afraid to raise prices as business owners, but are you seeing any specific actions that businesses are taking to stay afloat right now?
So given that the changes were kind of recent, we have not seen any immediate effects yet. That's not to say that in the future there might be. What I would encourage is to also leverage not just SBA resource partners, but also associations within your particular industry, so you can also hear from your fellow colleagues, what they're doing with their potential clientele. Are they raising their prices on their foods? Are they lowering prices? How are they diversifying their portfolio to continue navigating their business moving forward? As Dr. Scott mentioned, you also have to pivot sometimes with your small business model. And I think the COVID actually presented a great example of that, saying how small businesses were operating one way, but having to change their business model, revisit their business plan in order to make ends meet. So, to your question about okay, because of the changes with regards to loans, we haven't seen any immediate fix yet, but that's not to say, we don't know what's going to happen moving forward.
Hello. Test this up. There you go. My name is Adrian Day. I'm the owner of Hewitt Dental in Austin, Texas. I had a question for the SBA representative, Mr. Sumlin, and that is, do you have any updates on the status of the EA program? I know there's been a lot of changes to that this year. I submitted my application about 3.5 weeks ago. What is the normal processing time? And we should have be contacting to follow up. And does that have any impact? I know it's a federal certification, but what sort of impact could that have, if any, in the local and state level for institutions such as Central Cal, Austin Community College, etc.?
So the SBA is still accepting the AA applications. The time frame does vary just depending on the influx. So remember, there's one system that's taking in applications at any point from across the United States. The easiest answer I can give you is go to certifications at sba.gov. Type in perhaps your UEI on the subject line, saying, checking on the status of this. I really don't have a definitive time frame to that, but I'd be more than happy to follow up with you offline to see where we are with your application as well. But the program still is there. There have been some inquiries lately on it. I'm sure we all seen on the news about the 8A program. But as of right now, the SBA is still accepting 8A applications.
Thank you very much. This will be the last question, then we'll wrap up.
What did I use 4, 5, but that's okay. First of all, thank you to Ben and all everybody for putting this on.
This has been very helpful for me. I'm Alan Laser. I have a small business, Bar Solutions. We're a federal IT services firm looking to relocate to Texas, currently in North Carolina. Can you speak to the ecosystem in Austin as it relates to federal contractors? Is it growth? Are there big systems integrators here? Anything like that would be helpful to me as I'm trying to make a decision.
Is this SBA day here, right? So to your question, sir, I don't know the three off the top of my head, but I could say right now, construction and IT, I forgot which one the third one is our top industries within this district here. So SBA said on your please don't pay that purchases. That's how we actually cover a total of 55 counties throughout Central and South Texas. We have actually one of the most active 80 portfolio across the entire United States. And IT is up there. It's just that's going on in Military City, USA. So what I'd like to do is connect on stage and give you some more information on what we're seeing as far as contract opportunities for IT.
All righty, join me in giving our panel a hand. Should I order them off the stage, Javier? I think we can go ahead and depart the stage. Thank you very much. And thank you to the audience for your great questions, and hopefully this has been good information for you. And for those who have additional questions, I'm sure some of them will be around for a little while. You can talk to them directly. And I am going to